the very first time Elon ever amplified me, or I think probably ever saw my account, I was walking on a hike in Santa Monica. I think it was the Hollywood Hills. And I was just recording one of these walk and talk videos. And the title of the video was Elon accidentally stepped on a DARPA rattlesnake. And it was just like a 9 or 12 minute, just kind of like breathing heavy. We're walking through the, mountains. And I was explaining how this policy that Elon had just passed, and folks may remember this. It was an interesting thing. It was about 2 years ago. It was the rate limit. What Elon did is, I think it was something like it started as 2,000 posts a day, and then it went up to 5,000 or 10,000. And depending on your premium membership, it might go up to 20,000 or so. But you could only read a certain amount of tweets per day. You could only access a certain amount. Now, no single human is going to be like regularly exceeding 20,000, clicking on 20,000 tweets a day. That's just an incredible amount of volume. But if you are AI, if you are a bot, and I think, frankly, he probably did it because of bot farm issues and all the problems he inherited from bot farms from Twitter 1.0. I don't even think that he knew what he was, the impact this would have. Maybe he did. But the fact is when he put that rate limit on, you can't scrape 859 million tweets. You can't scrape billions of tweets as they did over COVID. The other thing he did very shortly before or after that was he changed the pricing on the API that was the plugin that allows other software or outside labs to be able to access Twitter data. He changed the price on it from a couple $100 a month to a couple $100,000 a month, I think, or 100,000. It was some huge amount of money, so that it became prohibitively expensive to access the data on the platform side, which is another way to scrape, all of the tweets. That meant that Google could afford it comfortably. Facebook could afford it comfortably. Microsoft could afford it comfortably if they want to pay to try to get that, platform side to be able to get essentially around the rate limit, to be able to scrape all this data, because now you can just get it through the API. But that meant that all these NGOs, all of these university centers, all these pop-up censorship mercenary firms that are surviving on $250K a year from the State Department or USAID or the UK Foreign Office, they can't pay over $1 million a year just for that and keep the levels that they have. And so they went dark in terms of their ability to actually micro-target and adjust up and down their targets, their pressure on the platforms. They had to become reactive. That is, things had to go viral, and they had to see them before they flagged them to the platforms and said, we're the Carnegie Endowment of International Peace, and if you want the State Department to protect you from international regulations in Pakistan, you better take down Nigel Farage's tweets about immigration. They had to wait for a Nigel Farage tweet to go viral first, because they couldn't pre-censor these things with the precision necessary. This is why they want the data compelled from the DSA.
So that killed AI censorship. That was it when Elon did that. That killed AI censorship effectively.
It radically depowered it. I wouldn't say killed it, but it turned it from something that would blow up entire planets to something that it went from being kind of a nuclear weapon, I guess, to being a Moab. One of those.
Do you know whether Elon did that intentionally for that purpose?
Weirdly, bot farms and lots of other things rely on big data ingestion to cause the problems they do.
Several problems, right?
I think he probably understands it now, and I know that Twitter 1.0 was intensely aware of the pressure they were under from these civil society organizations and the like. I don't know if it was Jack Dorsey, but I remember seeing very high-level Twitter 1.0 executives saying that they felt the most pressure from these outside researcher groups even more than from traditional media like the Washington Post saying we're going to write something dirty about you, because these civil society institutions were connected to these advertiser boycotts, and they would pressure them. Hi, I'm from the University of Washington, or I'm from Harvard, but we also, we're working with these NewsGuard type groups who are being funded by have these deep connections with the supply side advertisers, and it'd be a shame if something, nice business, it'd be a shame if something happened to you. And so I know that Elon felt pressure from that. I mean, he bought, basically as he was buying Twitter, he got a threat letter from 26 NGOs saying that they'd be leading a boycott crusade to bankrupt the company unless he brought back the trust and safety team. If you remember, you saw the same thing with, Imran Ahmed and it's the British censorship shop.
Oh yes, Center for
Countering Digital Hate.
Yes,
yeah, CCDH. And if you remember, when the leaked documents came out with their internal reports, the number one priority item was kill Musk's Twitter. That was the top. That was in their monthly donor report as a nonprofit. Which skates by tax laws by saying that they're effectively a humanitarian charity, and their number one action item is to kill Twitter through effectively ad boycotts and regulatory pressure.
If anyone wants to see just how deranged that group are, I recommend the trigonometry interview with. You saw that one, and he seems to sort of combust, have a little sort of brain meltdown in front of Konstantin's questioning. So this. You're saying the Digital Service Act is going to is an attempt to revive the old system, so that they have back that power, which is basically the most effective way of censorship.
Yes, it's the Empire Strikes Back. Like we, not to use a cheesy Star Wars analogy, but I'll go ahead. I mean, this thing was this kind of Death Star weapon. It completely killed the ability to challenge COVID. It completely killed the ability to challenge the election processes we used in the 2020 election. You had no hope. You were pre-censored at the outset. Any terms, slogans, evidence, news articles can completely, through the AI, pre-censored, not even a shot. And then, Elon sort of starts this, flying this little brigade of X-Wings into the exhaust pipe of, the rate limits and the API. Mark Zuckerberg follows suit. He prevents external access to what was called CrowdTangle, which was a tool to access the big data and build AI models on Facebook and Meta data, which was huge. CrowdTangle was a huge weapon that they used. But what the EU DSA does is one of the requirements is vetted researchers are forced to, the platforms are forced to turn this over to outside vetted researchers. You and I don't qualify because we're not,
we're not indoctrinated.
We're EU critical. Now, if we bent the knee and we changed our editorial line, we could start an NGO in a heartbeat and get credentialed for that sort of thing. But what's happening is you're essentially saying the platforms, oh no, this is narrowly tailored so that it's not overly onerous on free enterprise and, the sovereignty of a private corporation. It's just going to be a few of these outside groups. There are a bunch of these signatories to the EU Code of Practice on Disinformation, and then they're implementers. And these implementer groups get access to this, and then they can turn that into these hyper-targeting models, and it basically forces the Death Star to be able to be turned back on. And that threat is an enormous one. But it takes two to tango. It takes a government to compel the platforms to do it, and it takes the platforms to, essentially capitulate to pressure that, those who are developing these models and rolling them out, in order to take action on it. But that action can be compelled through government force, which is what the EU and UK and Brazil and others are trying to do now.
Thanks for watching this clip from The Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode, and for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.